Peru hasn't done that. We haven't had that hype, and we have been growing by ourselves, little by little, with not much publicity, and that has led us to. I think Peru in the future will become like a great sandbox. Peru's not the biggest market in Latin America. It's not the smallest. I think it's the fifth largest economy, which is decent, pretty decent. We have a great economy. Peru can serve as a sandbox for markets like Mexico or Brazil, which are huge.
We bid you Peru. With so much of the hype for Latin American cannabis centering on Colombia, how would the other players in the region get noticed? To help us figure that out, and to take a closer look at Peru, we speak to Jose Escalante, CEO of Futura Farms, to find out what we're missing out on.
So hello and welcome to the Lobsterpot podcast. I'm Dave Barton and I'm here with Jamie today, as per usual. Jamie, have you ever been to Latin America? Let me ask you that question first of all.
I am very, very sad to say I have not, in spite of the photo behind me or picture behind me that has a one of the countries represented in its flag. I unfortunately have not, despite having been invited now by everyone I've ever met from Latin America. So I feel like I need to get there sharpish.
Well, you're in luck. Maybe today will yield yet another invitation. I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, but today we have a very special guest from deepest, darkest Peru, as well, that's what they call it in Paddington Bear. We'll come on to that in a minute. But we have a man, he's into cannabis, he's Peruvian. I'm going to have to announce this in a kind of wrestler voice. His name, Jose Ignacio Escalante. Woo!
Yeah! And guys, you're invited to Peru.
What, even me as well? I'd love to go.
Yes.
I love it.
Please
there.
come. Please come. You'll have some nice food. I don't know. There's a lot of things to do.
Indeed, and cannabis. Does that register on the Peruvian scale of excellence as well? Tell us more about what you're doing in the because you have a medical market and it's decriminalized, isn't it? So tell us more, Jose. Tell us about, is it Futura Farms?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here. I'm Jose Escalante. I'm CEO of Futura Farms. We're a medical cannabis company here in the deep, dark Peru. Yes, we have a medical market in Peru. It's decriminalized. So if you get caught with up to 8 grams of flour or I guess 2 grams of anything else, you're all right. You can buy cannabis in certain licensed pharmacies or dispensaries with the medical prescription. So it's kind of different of the U.S. market where you need a medical card. Here you have a prescription and you have to go to the doctor each time you need to fulfill a new.
It's very much like here, actually, in terms of the medical cannabis. Do you do kind of, is there telemedicine? Is that a big thing in Peru? Is it kind of in-person stuff still with the doctors?
There's a little bit of both. We have, within Futura Farms, we have a telemedicine practice. We only do telemedicine consultations as we believe that's the future, and we want to make we want our patients to make the less effort in order to get their prescriptions. They don't have to go out of their house. We deliver the product to their homes and everything. So yeah, there are a lot of medical practices, not only in cannabis, but a lot of since the pandemic, telemedicine has grown a bit. So, and cannabis is not the exception. Most of our competitors in the medical space have both in-person and teleconsultations. We decided to go just for telemedicine.
Very cool. And I was going to say, so what's the kind of, I mean, how difficult is it to kind of get a prescription? Because here in the UK, you kind of have to, well, again, we have the culture of kind of, we have public healthcare, and medical cannabis is largely, well, 90% of it is private healthcare. And so there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of people going, well, why should I have to pay for this? But again, the process that you would go through is you go to the cannabis clinic, and you would have to then prove that you have a certain condition, whether it be neurological, psychological, ontological, and things like that. And then if you've tried 2 different types of treatment, then you can kind of get medical cannabis. Is it the same, or is it kind of easier, do you think, in Peru to get the prescription as a patient? Or how does it work?
It's a little easier. So we started during the pandemic. By the end of 2020, they started prescribing cannabis. The beauty of the regulation in Peru is that doctors don't need a special permit or a special license to prescribe cannabis. Every doctor that has a medical license by the CMP, which is the Colegio Médico of Peru, can prescribe cannabis. There's no limitations of what ailments can be or qualify for a cannabis treatment, but the Ministry of Health keeps an eye on it, so you don't have a lot of doctors prescribing THC gummies to everybody, right? But it happens. It still happens, but the Ministry of Health keeps an eye on it. But it's not hard. It's almost all of prescriptions go through the private sector. So there is cannabis in the public health system. It's not that big. You have a government pharmacy that sells CBD. They don't sell THC. They sell CBD tinctures. Very economic. It's not under $10. It's a good deal for some people. It's a great deal, and you get once you get your prescription, you can go to any pharmacy that has a license to sell cannabis. There are between 50 to 60 pharmacies nationwide, which is not that much. But you have some good players, big players with licenses, such as Farmacias Peruanas, which is the largest pharmacy chain in Peru. You also have one local pharmacy chain, local from Lima, called Farmacia Universal. It's very well known, that also has a decent cannabis operation. And you have individual dispensaries, which technically are pharmacies, but they only sell cannabis and they're specialized on cannabis. And you have quite a few of them.
So it's like, it's quite well set up and quite well organized, and obviously decriminalization has had a part in that, and greater access to it. And moving away from kind of the structure and the frameworks that are in place, and maybe it's a loaded question, because I hope you'll say yes anyway, but is Peruvian weed good weed? It doesn't get the same reputation as like a Colombia for, well, weed, but also other drugs. Peru sits in the shadow perhaps of Colombia in that respect. But do you think that Peruvian weed has, something special to offer? What's cannabis like there?
Yeah, I mean, Peruvian weed is great weed. It's not because it's Peruvian. It's because we have some good growers here, as Colombia has, as the US, as I think there's great growers everywhere. What happens with the local weed is that it's not legal. So the regulation is great for access to the medication. That's my opinion. There's a lot of people in Peru that thinks that the regulation sucks. For me, it doesn't. It's a good regulation. It's not the best. It's good, and good is good enough. And we're getting a new regulation that's coming very soon. That's better than the one we have now. But the regulation is not good for legal production nor exports, which is what Colombia has the experience on, right? So there's only one license for cannabis cultivation, and it's not even working because there's a lot of bureaucracy and getting everything. So you get the license, but still you have to comply with a lot of things that the entity says it, you have to. And given the current international situation of cannabis cultivation, it's not the best time for a lot of growers to start formalizing.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, I guess, and when
Yeah.
it's not set up to support them, it's even more difficult. You know,
Yeah.
I think maybe of Lima in particular, but Peru is a bit of a melting pot culturally, in that it has a lot of different influences from a lot of different parts of the world. Do you think that influences the kind of, I guess, the cultural opinion around cannabis, or do you think it's the same as it is in many countries, where people who may be a little bit older are a little bit more conservative and people who are younger are a little bit more liberal, or is it different, do you think?
So in our experience, it's a little bit weird. So the older people, do we swear in this
Go
podcast?
for it. Help
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, do it. Go for
Older
it.
people don't give a fuck. They're already retired. If their kids say you shouldn't be smoking weed, they say, why do you care? They don't give a fuck. Older
Yeah.
people, they're baby boomers. They were big stoners back in the day,
That's
and
it.
now that they found out there's nothing wrong about it, they don't give a fuck. They just do it. Then you have a bracket between 40 or 45 years old until 55, 60 that are very conservative, because I have also grown up in a home where my mother said, hey, if you smoke weed or do any drugs, you're going to end up living under a
That's it.
bridge and all that.
Yeah,
And
it's a gateway drug to everything else, and you're gonna mess your life up because of the bad drugs, kind of.
Yeah. So I'd say 45 to 60 years old. And that's an issue for the medical market, because when you speak about medical cannabis, you need and a 50-year-old has an 80-year-old parent. Usually, the 50-year-old buys the medicine for their parents.
Yeah.
So there's an education work that needs to be done. It's being done, but it's a long-term strategy. And then you have the millennials and the Gen Zs that they don't give a fuck either. And they don't do it just for the fun of it. They do it because they truly believe it's better for you. So it's better to have a joint than have a beer. It's better to have a joint than smoke a cigarette. They do it for wellness and for recreational reasons. So yeah, there's a lot of cultural. Getting to the beginning of your question, there's a lot of cultural influence because of all the urban and reggaeton, and there's a lot of. For what I understand, I'm not big in the reggaeton culture, but I know a little bit. And I think this has happened in every music theme. Like, artists work better on THC than on alcohol or other like soft drugs.
Mm-hmm. No, I think there's a long history of like creativity, cannabis, whether it be music or art or writing, all of that. And I suppose, culturally, does it feel like it's part of kind of youth culture in Peru? Do you feel like it's, perhaps the way it has been in other countries?
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's always part of the youth culture. Whether you're in Peru or in California or in London, I think everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people, a lot of young guys smoke weed and still at least have some experience with it.
I think it's all part of that pushing boundaries thing when you're younger, isn't it? And finding new things that maybe you've not been exposed to before, new ideas and from new people. And cannabis, because it has historically been illicit, falls into that category. You almost think that if cannabis was like, maybe, we have a shop, and I don't even know how you describe it. Maybe Dave, you better help me here. Like a Holland and Barrett, Dave. What is a Holland and Barrett?
It's like a health store, like a wellness store. It's like a,
if cannabis wasn't illegal and wasn't like cool for being illegal, and it was just like in the same category as, say, ginger or I don't know, witch's bane or something like that.
Jojoba oil.
Yeah.
Or,
No
Right.
kid would ever touch it. And it's kind of funny that I wonder if going forward as it becomes more acceptable, whether or not there'll be a drop off. But I suppose that's just a totally different thought exercise.
It depends whether things like echinacea and jojoba oil can get you mashed up, doesn't it? Really? And I don't believe. Well, I think you probably. I don't know. I've never tried them, but I guess you'd have to take a lot for it to have an effect. Or was it that stuff they had? Was it St. John's wort or something?
That's it.
Isn't that? I remember Bez from Happy Mondays takes that, doesn't he? I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. I'm derailing.
People that drink Listerine to get a little buzz. Yeah, they have. It has a little bit of alcohol, a little bit. So there are a lot of kids that drink it just to get a little buzz.
Yeah. It's the same as nutmeg. You can get very messed up on nutmeg.
Really?
Can you?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, so not to be messed around with. Nutmeg is not a joke.
Okay, you heard it here. Talk to Jamie about nutmeg, people.
Please ask me more.
Nutmeg prohibition.
Nutmeg.
Yeah, so you can get it in any good supermarket. It's good stuff.
No, but it's interesting. It's like what's the stuff that we have a lot? There's been a bit of a backlash here in the UK around canisters of nitrous oxide, like laughing gas, and that seems to be a big thing. I was watching one of these programs about Brits abroad, young Brits going on holiday to like really cheap locations and getting mashed up. And where was it? In Bulgaria. So in this place called Sunny Beach, which is typical Bulgarian name you'd imagine for a tourist destination.
Right.
And people just handing out balloons of nitrous oxide to just like people in the street, and it's just like, I think there's room for that kind of level of insanity, or just debauch, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, it comes back to that whole, if you get it from a trustworthy source, you know what you're getting, and that it's still going to have the effect you want, but it's not going to basically make you suffocate or something like that. And
it's probably going to be better.
Yeah, and it is.
If you have the quality assurance that it's a good product, you won't harm yourself, you'll have a great time, and that's it. You leave some taxes, you create some jobs, everybody wins.
No, absolutely. It should be a no-brainer, you would hope. You mentioned there's a new regulation, or new bit of legislation coming in. What are the changes? What are the proposed changes, if you know about it?
Yeah, the new regulation is great. All of my competitors and colleagues don't think this, but I think it's great. So they have included a associative cannabis cultivations license. So basically, you have cannabis associations or cannabis clubs that they can grow their own weed and use it, which I think it's great. They have messed up a lot of parts of that regulation, of that chapter of the regulation. So they have to get their genetics from abroad, which makes no sense. And there are a lot of things that they need to improve. But just to have the legal framework to build a cannabis club, a cannabis association, is great. It's great. We're evolving as a market, and we're evolving, I think, towards a good destination.
So is that kind of like sorry, I'm going to say, is that like so they're going to have cannabis clubs? They're going to be kind of like non-profit things, because I think we're hearing a lot about that's going to be what they're proposing in Germany.
Yes,
for example,
it's non-profit. You need a physician to prescribe the product and everything.
So it's still very much medical, kind of the non-profits.
It is, but it's moving towards a right path, not the right path, because I don't think there's one right path, but the path it's taken, it's good. That's one of the three main points I rescue from the new regulation. The second one is that they are going to allow the medical prescriptions to act sort of a medical card. So they can now prescribe you a year of product, and the pharmacy will just in the prescription they will just write, yeah, of the 120 grams, Jamie just got 10 grams, so it's his buy from the month or whatever, right? So that's great. So people don't have to go every month to the doctor to fill their prescription, which makes no sense. Because if you already have a dose that works for you, you don't have to pay every time you,
I
right?
suppose that's kind of commercializing it in some respects, isn't it? I mean, again, we have the clinics here. You kind of have to pay 50, 75 pound per consultation, which is essentially a 15-minute Google call. You know, and you know that I guess they don't make money off the clinics make the money when they, you know, I don't know how much they make or what the markup is, but again, it's two very different things. Sorry, the dispensary. So again, it's Curaleaf, for example, probably for the most part that will make money from the products. I don't think the actual clinic, other than facilitating the consultation and healthcare in the same way, have, you know, make a lot of money. So it makes sense. But again, you know, I suppose it's where does the consumer, you know, themselves benefit from having that? And again, that sounds like a lot more of a kind of friendly system, a much more effective system than
Right.
what we have here. And again, it's kind of like, if you know that you're getting 10 grand a month, you're allowed to have 120 in a calendar year or whatever, at least from the medical side of things, and that gives you a, you know, a roadmap into what to expect, you know.
Right. And at a first glance, it's not supposed to be great for the clinics, but clinics are supposed to be managed by smart people, and they can find an innovative way to make money out of it. We are definitely going to. I can't reveal right now what we're doing because we're still in development, but we're thinking of innovative ways for the clinic to keep being profitable and make some money. The clinic is not our money maker. We just want to make it sustainable, right? So it doesn't cost us money. We make our business is basically on the distribution and business to consumer sales. So after the telemedicine platform, we have a marketplace in which pharmacies and dispensaries can post their products and tell them, and we charge them a small fee for that. So we're making our money in both ends of the business, not necessarily in the telemedicine, but still we're confident that will keep being at least sustainable.
But it's one of those things where there's not a clear path to how you can, you know, commercialize it. You just have to kind of get creative and find ways to, you know, what can we do? How can we curate it? How can we, you know, get everybody else, other players on board with what we're doing and provide that access? And I suppose if you've got access, if you can provide, you know, the patients, the consumers, then, you know, that gives everyone else an incentive to go, well, we better, you know, get on board with that marketplace.
Yeah. And the third change in the regulation is that in the first one you weren't supposed, there was a loophole, but you weren't supposed to sell flower, so they didn't let you import flower because the combustion of cannabis was prohibited.
Okay, because it's more carcinogenic or whatever.
You know, whatever. I didn't know why they just put it. They don't want people smoking joints on the streets.
Okay,
that's why I think.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason. You can make a case about vaporizing weed, but they still didn't let you import the flower. Now I don't know if it was by design or by mistake, but they removed that prohibition of combustion. And the regulator is open for importing flower. We're actually in conversations with them. They don't know how to do it yet because you need to go to the Department of Agriculture to get some sort of permit or whatever. And we'll figure it out in time. But the third change is that we'll be able to sell flower in the market, which is great, because it's the preferred form of usage. I guess in the UK it's the same. Everybody wants to smoke some flower. it's the best
same.
experience.
I think it's the same ever. It's always the dominant
Yeah.
category, isn't it? As
Yeah.
much as things like beverages or gummies, on the rise, it's always flour is always the majority of the market. It just ends up being. I mean, it sounds from what you said that it's heading in the right direction. I suppose really broadly asking you is, are you positive about the kind of next few years for Peruvian cannabis, the Peruvian cannabis market? Are you positive about it? Are you excited for it?
Yes, very, very. I think Peru, unlike Colombia has a great regulation. They have developed the market, but I believe they overdeveloped it and overhyped it. Peru hasn't done that. We haven't had that hype, and we have been growing by ourselves, little by little, with not much publicity, and that has led us to. I think Peru in the future will become like a great sandbox. Peru is not the biggest market in Latin America. It's not the smallest. I think it's the 5th largest economy, which is decent, pretty decent. We have a great economy. Peru can serve as a sandbox for markets like Mexico or Brazil, which are huge, and see what works and what not. And I'm excited for that. We're also working with Congress for the first draft of a industrial hemp bill, which is not fun, but it's good for the market. It's good for people to get used to hearing the word cannabis and hemp, and know that cannabis is not only a drug that you could use for medicine or for recreational purposes, but you can do clothes with it, you can build houses with it, you can make paper with it. And what my way of thinking is, if you have listened the same speech over and over again since you were a little kid, this is bad, this is drug, this kills people, this is not good, you will think that. But if you at your 30 something 40 something years old, you're listening, hey, but you can make clothes with it, you can have a good time with it, you can not cure but alleviate some illness, some illnesses that you have, and whatever, you say, hey, this wasn't that bad of things. And that's why I think the industrial hemp bill will help the medical and recreational cannabis markets in Peru, besides moving the economy, creating jobs and taxes and whatnot, right? So I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited for it.
Excellent stuff. Cool. And what, in terms of, I guess, in terms of your sort of business, Futura Farms, what's the kind of next steps for you? You mentioned you've got a few things you can't talk about, but what kind of, can you give us a clue as to what kind of things are going on?
We're investing a lot on our marketplace. It's functional since September last year, but very manually. We're launching this week, I hope, or next week, the e-commerce part of it. I'm very excited about it. We'll finish the loop for having 100% digital service to our patients. They won't need to go out of their homes to get cannabis and their treatments and their prescriptions, which is very good. I think the new regulation will the fact that we will be able to sell flour will be great for the market. I think that will help, along with an education campaign. That will help grow the industry locally.
You've got some big plans, big bold plans, and
yes,
we look forward to seeing them come to fruition. So keep us posted.
Yeah, and I hope, I've been telling all my competitors, hey, you should start bringing flour. They don't listen to me, and I hope they hear this, because the regulator is listening to me, and we're working something, some pathway, some regulatory pathway to import flour. So they're open to it, and I hope everybody do it. I don't want to be the only one doing it, because that means I'm gonna make a lot of money probably, and that's all right, and that's amazing. but I need the industry to grow and not be the only one selling it. I need competition. I need people to start selling similar things to what I'm doing.
That's it.
Plus, I have a marketplace, and I don't care if I sell my brands or whatever brands. I just want to sell brands, and the more brands there are in the market, the best for me.
That's it. It sounds like someone's throwing down the mic for the Peruvian cannabis industry. So good luck to you, sir. We look forward to seeing your plans come to fruition, and
Thanks, man.
hopefully we will see you again soon, sir. So thank you very much for coming on. Jose Ignacio Escalante, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jose. It was lovely speaking to you, man.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Dave.
Take care, man. All the best.
Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.